So here's the thing. Opening up and talking about difficult moments, our struggles and our emotions, is courageous and it's powerful, but it can take its toll on us. Take a seat. This is the Life Bench. Thank you for coming back to listen. As you know, there was no episode last week, and that was for two reasons, really. Firstly, I had the week off work, which was really nice. I was actually able to do lots of different things for the first time since my operation. One of them, as you may have seen was on my Instagram, was to see Lewis Capaldi at the O2. And what an amazing night that was. I just want to say that I think that the way he's come back from his recent struggles and be performing again is really great. A true sign of resilience. A couple of times during the gig he spoke about it, and you could see how emotional he was and how it's still affecting him. But it's nice to see him in a better place and back on stage again. A lot of his songs are powerful anyway, but live and with that behind him, it just added to the atmosphere. If you get the opportunity to see him, I'd highly recommend it. He was awesome. The second reason there wasn't an episode was actually because I felt like I needed a break. I had planned to record one whilst I was off, but when it came to it, I just felt low and drained. So I decided not to, and then in the middle of the week I got a message from a friend asking me how I was finding doing the podcast emotionally. And it made me stop and realise that facing stuff and opening up these last 9 weeks have actually really taken their toll on me. I knew that I'd found certain episodes particularly hard to record, but I hadn't realised quite how much doing it would affect me, and I think it's caught up with me in the end. I've been so invested and full on with pushing forward with it that I've realised I've not taken the time to stop and reflect how I'm actually feeling about it all. Now, I've certainly found the last 9 weeks of opening up has helped me a lot, and I hope it's helped some of you as well. But it has been hard. And so today's episode, I want to talk about that really. The toll that talking can have on us. And also the importance of balance when opening up, and the need for that time afterwards to recover. So let's get into it. So why does talking about certain things have such an impact on us? Well, when we talk, it's not just words. It's the memories and emotions associated with that moment. A lot of the time with difficult topics, the emotions are sadness or pain or hurt. And reliving those moments can be extremely hard. Going back there in our minds and facing it all again. It isn't easy. Most of the time it's facing stuff that we don't want to because it's too difficult to talk about. And that's why so many of us avoid talking at all. Also, when we talk, our bodies react. Our heart rate increases, our throat tightens, we tense up. It's no wonder we feel drained afterwards. Not only are we talking about something difficult, but it's having an impact on our body physically. It's like we've run a marathon when we've actually done nothing but talk. I'm sure everyone listening has experienced this at some point. Any difficult conversation you've had with a friend or family member, maybe even your boss or work colleague, where you've been open and honest, you would have felt the impact afterwards. Having these conversations isn't easy. They can be very hard at times, which, like I've said, is why so many of us avoid them. It's not easy to be open and honest, vulnerable, and show someone how you're really feeling. Because you're not just speaking, you're exposing something, and that takes a lot of courage. Now, of course, talking can be incredibly beneficial, and I know we've come a long way recently, but there's still a lot more work to be done. A big part of me doing this is to try and show others that it's okay to talk and share, open up about how we're feeling. As humans, we need it. We can't carry these thoughts and feelings alone. We need to let them out from time to time. But we also need to remember that These conversations are hard and they require energy. It's important that we talk, but it does take its toll on us. And so when I received that message, I actually noticed the impact the last 9 weeks has had on me. Up to that point, I hadn't. Facing some of these things, looking inward and opening up, I knew it would be difficult, but I wasn't prepared for the emotional energy needed to do it. Now, don't get me wrong, I've absolutely loved doing it. I know how important these conversations are and hopefully how beneficial they can be. But I've certainly felt it after 9 weeks. It's not just the time commitment. I'm absolutely fine with that because it's something I believe in. It's just the reality of facing some hard stuff every week, I guess. So yes, talking is powerful and very much needed, but it can be draining, and we need to find that balance between being open and letting stuff out, while also looking after ourselves and protecting our energy. This is something I've not been doing, and it's why I've felt the way I have. So now I want to look at why having that balance is so important. We know that exercise uses physical energy, and talking about certain things uses emotional energy. But what we sometimes forget is that just like you wouldn't run a marathon every day, you can't expect yourself to open up emotionally day after day without any rest. And that's where balance comes in. Balance is about pacing yourself. It's about knowing when to open up and when to give yourself a break. I think a lot of us fall into the two extremes. We either hold everything in and keep it bottled up until it all becomes too much. Or, once we start talking, we try to let out all of our thoughts and feelings, going over and over it again, thinking that's the only way to get through. Neither extreme is healthy, and I'm certainly guilty of the first one. I think I've said this before, but I spent years keeping stuff inside, till it became too much. And it's only been recently that I've started to get better with any of that. Sometimes balance means recognizing that you don't have to tell everyone everything. Not every person or every situation is right for you to open up. You need to find that balance between talking to a friend, your partner, or maybe getting stuff down in a journal. Choose carefully. Don't carry it alone, but also don't drain yourself by oversharing. Balance also means noticing the signals and listening to your body. Have you ever had brain fog or a heavy chest after a really hard conversation? That's your mind and body telling you that you need a break. It's the same as having sore muscles after you train. And these are the signals we don't want to ignore. You can keep going and try to push through, but eventually you'll crash, or in the case of exercise, you're likely to get injured. Again, this is something I'm not very good at, and it's something I need to work on. Recognizing what I need is so important, and that's why I took that break last week. Although it wasn't until I received that message that I understood why, and I knew instantly it's what I had to talk about in this episode. At first I felt guilty, like I should just be able to keep going, and I didn't want to let anyone down. But when I gave myself that space, I realized it's exactly what I needed. And when I came back to it the following week, I had more clarity and certainly more energy ready to go again. It also made me realize that I need to do things differently going forward to prevent it happening again. Because it will if I don't put things in place. I need to find that balance of not doing too much and making sure I allow myself time for myself and the things that I enjoy. Any balance will look different for everyone. Maybe it's setting boundaries when you'll talk. For example, not before bed or before you start work. Or maybe it's saying no when someone else wants to talk, but you know you're not in the right headspace to listen. Both of these examples are balance as well. It doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you're shutting down. It just means you're protecting your own energy so that when you do open up, you can be more present, more real, and I guess more able to cope with the toll. Balance will take work. You've got to recognize yourself, notice your limits, and make internal choices about what's right for you. It's important to find that balance between opening up when we need to, holding back when we need to, and just as importantly, making sure we recover afterwards, which is the last part that we need to cover. So balance is about pacing yourself and protecting your energy. Recovery is what comes afterwards and is what's needed to ensure you don't burn out. Because we know that talking about difficult things can take a lot out of us. So you need to do something to recover, to ensure that you can carry on at your best afterwards. Using our training analogy again, after you've done a tough workout, you don't just walk away and expect your body to be okay the next time. Well, I'd hope not anyway. You stretch, you hydrate, you fuel yourself, or maybe take a rest day. It's in the recovery where your muscles grow and you get stronger for the next time. And it's the same with the emotional side of us. Talking about heavy stuff is like lifting emotional weights, and you need to give yourself time and space to recover, to be able to grow. I seem to say this for a lot of the things that I talk about, but it's because it's true. And recovery looks different for everyone. It might be time alone, going for a walk, exercising, immersing yourself in a book, or binging a TV series. Whatever works for you. It's just important you give yourself the time you need that will help you to recover. And I think it's really important to say this: recovery is not selfish. Sometimes we can feel guilty for putting ourselves first, but sometimes it's what we need to do. Self-care is important. We all need it. That time to focus on ourselves and how we're feeling. If we keep giving and giving, eventually there'll be nothing left. The saying says, you can't pour from an empty cup. So you need to recognize when to step back and allow yourself that time to recover. You won't be able to help yourself or anyone else if you're drained or burnt out. If you're going to be brave and open up about how you're feeling, then also be brave to give yourself the time you need to recover. Both are necessary, and both are signs of strength. Again, this is something I'm working on. I've often just tried to carry on and push through without doing anything to recover. It's caught up with me numerous times, and I'm glad that I've recognised it early this time, thanks to that message that I received. So I need to ensure that I do things that help me to recover. Getting outside with Benji, letting my thoughts clear, exercising, reading, making sure I'm not talking about this all the time. I know how I feel after having this week off, so I need to remember that and make sure I do the right things for me going forward. I've said that recovery is where growth happens, and it is. It's in that space after you've talked, after you've faced something difficult, that you can actually reflect, process, and make sense of it all. Without recovery, that talking is just using up energy. With recovery, it becomes about building strength. So yeah, that's been the toll of talking. Hopefully some of what I've explored will help you to understand why you felt a certain way after talking before, and also maybe make you more aware of when you need some recovery time. The key takeaway I want you to leave today with is that talking is powerful, but it's not without cost. And that's fine. Cost doesn't make it any less worthwhile. It just means we need to respect it, balance it, and recover afterwards. The most important thing is to be kind to yourself along the way. Yes, be honest, but also pace yourself. Give yourself space to recharge. That's the only way the best version of you can keep showing up for yourself and for the people around you. So maybe this week, notice how talking affects you. Notice when you feel better afterwards and when you feel drained. And then ask yourself, what do I need to do to balance this? What do I need to recover? If you can get this right, I promise it will benefit you in the long run. Thank you again for listening this week. Your support is always greatly appreciated. It was quite random how this episode came about, but I'm glad I did it because it feels right, and I certainly needed it. I think it's been one of the most helpful to me, and hopefully I can find the best way for me to balance things so that I can keep showing up without it taking too much of a toll on me. I always knew it was going to be hard facing some of this stuff, but like I've said, I wasn't prepared for quite how hard. But this process has still had more of a positive effect than a negative one. Opening up and talking, something I've not done for ages, has been good for me. And hopefully some of what I've said has helped you. If today's episode or any of the others have helped or made you think differently, then do let me know. I love hearing from you. Please continue to rate and review the podcast wherever you listen. It really does help. Follow and interact with the Instagram pages and share it with anyone you think that would enjoy it. It really does help and is very much appreciated. Lastly, you may have seen on one of my stories that I have a new microphone. I'm still trying to figure out the best settings for it. So if it sounds a bit off, that could be why. But hopefully it's not too bad. Let me know if you can hear a difference or if I sound exactly the same and it was a complete waste of money. So the quote to end this episode is not anything famous or well known. I spent ages online searching and looking through books trying to find something suitable, but to no avail. So I've just written a line or two that hopefully works and ends the episode well. Words are energy. Use them carefully, protect them wisely, and remember to recharge after giving them away.